Oh.
Is Germany once again the sick man of Europe? Was the headline in The Economist last summer, more than 20 years after the magazine once declared Germany to be the sick man. There's hardly anyone in Germany who would disagree with that thesis. Industrial production in Germany is around 15% below the 2018 level and has continued to fall, even though the impact of the corona crisis and also the Ukraine war has been overcome. The industrial contraction process has now so much momentum that is shaping overall economic development. In fact, Germany's gross domestic product is lower than it was in 2018, which is 7 years ago. The German government and many economists have been claiming that private consumption will save the economy, as there are no other signs of economic upturn. But in view of impending mass redundancies in industry and the real income losses of more than 5% in the last 5 years, people are in a very bad mood to spend. So there's no rescue in sight. So what is the cause of the illness? The typical suspects cited are demographic aging, the associated shortage of skilled labor, and the excessive bureaucracy that burdens companies. There are also many complaints now about high, indeed too high, and even rising energy costs. High electricity prices in particular are seen as a problem. However, this phenomenon is denied by the many advocates of the green transformation in Germany. The claim that high energy prices are only a temporary problem, as the transformation is not processing fast enough, and we are therefore not yet benefiting from the very favorable long-term energy prices. The sun doesn't send a bill, so the story goes, but the oil sheiks do. However, energy policy is the central problem, because climate policy behind it takes no account whatsoever on social prosperity. It is causing prosperity-destroying energy costs by unilaterally aiming to make Germany climate neutral by 2045, instead of also considering the option of adapting to man-made and natural climate change. It is based on the premise, and I think that's very important, that energy consumption per capita must be drastically reduced. That's also part of the Green Deal in the EU, in order to be able to cover the remaining consumption exclusively with climate-neutral energy, which in Germany is almost exclusively wind and solar energy. So, what impact does this climate policy have on energy costs and the economy in particular? The effects on electricity costs are very clear by now. Renewable energies account for less than 20% of the total energy consumption in Germany, but the expansion of wind and solar energy over the past 25 years has meant that now almost 60% of electricity in Germany is covered by wind and solar power. This has a huge impact, because wind and solar energy plants only supply energy when the whims of nature allow it. However, the energy requirements of a highly industrialized society are completely different. In order to be able to supply electricity in line with demand, there are basically only two options. Either you store the surplus energy when the renewables deliver and feed this energy back into the grid when the sun is not shining and the wind is not blowing, or complementary energy supply is provided for this case so that weeks of dark doldrums can be overcome. In Germany, it is now becoming very clear in practical terms how enormously expensive the switch to renewable energies is. It can be argued that the cheapest renewable electricity from offshore wind turbines in our latitudes is generated at a price that is compatible to the cheapest fossil fuel electricity generation, which is coal. However, this cheap wind power has to be stored, for example, by converting it into hydrogen, so that it can be used again when a wind turbine is generating little or no electricity. Almost 3/4 of the energy is lost due to the physical efficiencies in the energy conversion process. Alone, the resulting electricity price is correspondingly higher. The costs are no lower for battery storage or for maintaining a completely complementary energy generation system that is also to be converted to green energy. And just the last sentence, for that reason, just to give you an idea what that means, electricity prices now in Germany are at 35 cents per kilowatt hour. And before the Ukraine war, gas prices were at 4 cents per kilowatt hour. So we have a really enormous increase in energy.
Thank you very much.